Hey everybody, welcome to our video series from the Expert CS and PM Alignment. This is a video series we are doing to cover the key findings from our 2019 CS and PM Alignment Report. We actually did this survey back in 2017, and we did the same survey earlier this summer to see what's changed since then and figure out where the gaps are in team alignment. And we thought, what better way to discuss all of the key findings than get the customer success and product leaders on here themselves. So today we actually have our first product leader that we've had on this series, which is super exciting. We've had 2 CS folks so far, so kind of excited to get some of the product perspective on some of these stats. So today with us we have Arash Marzban. He is the VP of Product Management at StackPath. Thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited to get your input.
Thanks, Kelsey. It's fun to be on the show with you guys.
Cool. Alrighty, so I want to just go ahead and start digging into these key findings. So today we're kind of discussing, specific metrics that teams aren't aligned on right now, and we were kind of surprised to learn that these were some of the metrics that teams weren't aligned on today. So one of the stats that we found was that respondents felt that their organizations were the least aligned around 2 pivotal areas, which were customer health, 29%, and then onboarding processes, which was 24%. So my question for you is, what steps or tips do you have for teams who are looking to be more aligned in these 2 areas? What are some tips and best practices?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's super interesting finding, by the way, because I think one of the things that companies do is they set a clear mission for how they want to kind of approach customer success and what it means to the business as to how they want to treat customers and what value they want to bring in. It's very interesting to see those 2 pieces not being aligned, because you want to understand how your customers feel about your product, how engaged they are in using your solutions, everything from logging into the portal to calling support and being able to see that and understand what's going on. And then just as importantly is when a customer comes on board, the first interaction they have with you outside of learning about your product line and learning about your solutions and who you are and what you're trying to solve for them is really the experience that they get during the onboarding process. And those are both so absolutely critical because they define a lot of the sentiment that the customer has and feels about your organization. So time comes for a renewal, or time comes where they're looking at budget, and those are oftentimes drivers of change. It's so important that they have a positive perspective on the value you've been able to bring them. So it's very interesting to see that those 2 are misaligned because they're so critical in the overarching view of customer journey. So some of the things that I might bring up that I think are important or valuable to look at is the customer always has to be sort of a tenant of the values, the culture inside a company in order to bring better alignment in areas like customer health or the onboarding process, because you're doing everything with a customer first approach. And so that's layer number 1. Once everyone's aligned to those 2 perspectives, it goes it's easier from there. The next thing is that I think customers or organizations really in general have to create the right customer journey. And that means not only understanding what their touch points are with customers, but how those touch points unfold and what they mean and what value their customers are supposed to get out of every single touch point. Again, from onboarding to check-ins with customers, and customer service teams often run things like business reviews or run analytics and metrics on usage of the platform, and then come back to customers and provide them with insights on how they could take or I should say leverage the platform better, or leverage a product better so they get more value out of it. But that solution has to be an ongoing, or that process has to be absolutely ongoing. And so in building the right communication chain between a product management team and a customer success organization, whether it's the right cadence or the right data sets for them to look at, the focus on the outcomes and the feedback, and again, understanding and looking at what's going on and then continually refining it. And those pieces of feedback making their way back into the customer journey that the company leverages for the customer success kind of organization are massive elements. So I would kind of summarize that as, I think, understanding that the customer journey is key to how a customer views success and what that really means to them in using your solutions. And then that feedback and continual sort of Kaizen approach of continuing to improve and taking feedback from every customer and every avenue and every aspect that you can to refine that journey, refine the response, and having that open dialogue with your customers to even ask them simple questions like, hey, how did you guys feel when we did this? How was it for your team? Did we create any challenges for you, or did we make life easier? and trying to bring those two together, I think, is a really big deal. So, that alignment between customer health and onboarding process, those two being kind of two big gaps in the process are interesting. And I think a lot of it comes down to really understanding, what's the expectation or what journey have you created for your customer, and how do you refine that continually?
Yeah, I agree. I think that's really good feedback and really good actionable items too that you can take from that. And I guess our next, good question for this, kind of to just piggyback off of that question, and I know you touched on this a little bit already, but what are some of the benefits that the customer will see, once these two teams have stronger alignment in those areas?
Yeah, good question, great follow-on. So, there's probably a couple of different areas. So again, if you think about that, about how a company would operate or teams would operate when it comes to defining what they saw, what they learned, which are really, let's call those metrics or analytics, and then understanding and digesting that so they can drive change or drive behavioral changes that would actually, support what customers are looking for, which ultimately leads to a lot of good metrics. So, when you think about it from a product lens, which is, where I always sit in an organization, product's always measured on a few really key things, which is revenue always matters. Delivery always matters because you want timely, good quality products to go out the door. And then there's one that's that soft metric, but such a critical one because it really defines everything from stickiness of the product all the way through, you name it. And that is, how does your customer feel about your product, right? And so if you really look at customer success and product management, they are extremely, or I should say, alignment between those two organizations, those two teams is beyond critical. Because what you're looking for is great. I can look at the market and I can understand from a product lens what might be valuable, what might not be. I can do some testing. I can do all types of fun analysis. I can build a strategy around it. But from an execution standpoint, that direct engagement with customer success and bringing back the customer's perspective and what they're using and what their pain points are and challenges are gives you insight into really the journey and the use that the customer has for your product. So, your customer success teams and alignment between those teams, really for a product organization, customer success is the conduit for customer satisfaction, adoption, so increased use, and then very importantly, churn as well. Because again, the way that a customer success team can engage a client, engage a user, engage a base, and again, understand their sentiment and perspective, it's such a big foundational element of product management. And over the past several years, the growth in customer success as being its own standalone effective organization, moving away from sort of traditional account management, which has been very sales focused, I think is a phenomenal thing because it really starts to highlight the values of an organization when they say their customer first, and it puts it into practice in a way that customers can actually tangibly feel it and get value and benefit out of it. And for an organization or a group like a product team, it's the insight's spectacular. So leveraging that and aligning those two really is what helps you create and refine that holistic customer journey, because you can do it and you can build it when it comes to understanding what the customers are saying and feedback channels and how they're interacting with support. But nothing beats that sentiment or discussion where it's around, Mr. Customer, what can I do for you to make our solutions better, and how can I make your life easier as a user? So I think it's pretty critical. So all of that being said, I think it really blends, or if you do the right things in that process, your customers are going to see a better ease of use, right? And ease of use doesn't just mean a better portal experience. It really means that the way that they experience your company, your organization, and the way that you help solve problems for them becomes simpler, and it makes their life easier. Their satisfaction will absolutely increase in that same process the more aligned these teams are, and the more the more they chat and communicate. And then ultimately, and to oversimplify it, that better experience just translates to being in a spot where you can really help define the market for your products. And so again, me wearing the product hat in an organization, I always really do care about how my product is perceived in market. And so knowing that we're providing the best overall experience, and we're doing that because the customer success teams and the product management teams are sitting down to look at data and metrics and feedback on a continual basis, is a huge part of being a great product for a customer set that really loves you.
Yeah, that's all very good feedback, and I'm really glad that we got a product perspective on this. I think this was all super helpful information, very actionable, and it does all come full circle when you have all teams align, it trickles down to the customer. So definitely agree with all that. So I do want to just kind of mention where you guys can find the rest of the key findings for this report. So if you're on our website, useriq.com, you can drop down the resources and you will find the report there. These videos will be going out on a bi-weekly basis, so you'll be able to catch more customer success and product leaders coming in the next few weeks. Before we go, do you want to do a little plug for yourself?
I appreciate it. Yeah, awesome. So you guys can find me on LinkedIn. I'm not very active on Twitter, but I'm happy to answer any questions or talk about product and customer experience and even user IQ anytime someone wants to chat. So feel free to reach out.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much.